You don't remember when it started, but at some point, you stopped being you. It didn't happen all at once. It was little by little. So subtle, it felt normal. One day you compromised on a detail. The next, you swallowed your feelings. Then, you said yes with a lump in your throat. And without noticing, you began building your own cage, made of compromises, fake smiles, and silenced desires. You call it maturity, being flexible, knowing how to live with others. But deep down, it's fear. Fear of displeasing, fear of disappointing, fear of being left, fear of being you. You became a specialist at detecting what others expect, okay? And molding yourself to fit, adapting, becoming as convenient as possible, almost invisible. You developed the skill of disappearing just to belong. And now, even you no longer know who's in there. You feel a weight in your chest you can't explain, a tiredness sleep can't fix, a restlessness that screams, "This is not your place." But you silence it, just like you always have, because you learned that being accepted is worth more than being true. And ever since, you've lived on the sidelines of your own life, fulfilling expectations that aren't yours, suppressing desires you never had the courage to claim. You're surrounded by people, yet feel alone, because no one truly knows you. And how could they, if you don't even allow yourself to be seen? The cruelest part of this prison is that the key was always in your hands, but the fear of using it made you choose the comfort of captivity over the wildness of being who you are. Rejection isn't just pain, it's the wound of not being enough to be loved. No one is born afraid of rejection. We learn it in childhood, in the first disapproving looks, in the chilling silences, in punishments laced with abandonment. Maybe you cried too much, and they called it weakness. Maybe you spoke with honesty, and they laughed at your sensitivity. Maybe you loved too deeply, and they called you needy, and then you understood. Being yourself hurts. Showing your feelings pushes people away. Being authentic makes others uncomfortable. So you began to hide. You started adjusting your tone of voice, your sparkle, your laughter, your tears. Everything became measured, calculated, controlled, because the last thing you wanted was to be rejected again. The cruelest part. The more you mold yourself, the less you feel seen. And the less you're seen, the more you try to please, so you don't disappear. You don't want love. You want acceptance. You don't want to be whole. You want to be enough. And deep down, you carry a question that never leaves. If I'm truly myself, will they still love me? That question paralyzes you, traps you, forces you to keep wearing the costume of the likable one. The easy one, the one who doesn't cause trouble. But you do cause trouble. Because you're human. Because you feel. Because you have limits, desires, intensity. Yet you hide it all. Like someone hiding a shameful stain. As if being intense was too much. As if being sensitive was weakness. As if you were a walking mistake, apologizing for existing. And that's the route. The silent origin of your fear. It's not fear of others. It's fear that your truth might scare away what you want most. Love, belonging, being seen. You don't wear the mask anymore. It's part of your face now. At first, it was just a disguise, a way to survive. You learned what pleased others and delivered it. The right words, the right tone, the expected behavior. You became skilled at being what others wanted. But time passed, and what started as effort became instinct. Now you don't even notice it. You respond on autopilot. You smile when you want to cry. You agree without thinking. Say, "I'm fine," when you're nowhere near that. The mask stuck, and the scariest part, you think it's you. You forgot what truly annoys you, forgot what truly brings you joy, forgot your own opinions. You adapted so much, you got lost in the process. Now, every time you need to take a stand, you freeze. Every time you have to say what you want, you hesitate. Every time you need to say no, your body trembles, because the mask wants to keep the peace. Even if that peace costs you your truth, you call it empathy, politeness, knowing how to coexist. But deep down, you know, it's fear. Fear of confrontation. Fear of being rejected. Fear that if you show what you really think, they'll walk away. They'll reject you. They'll replace you. So you stay, pretending, bending, fading. And this constant performance drains you. No wonder you're always tired. Your body carries the weight of a character that was never meant to exist, but one you feed every single day. With silence, with self-denial, with the hope that maybe, if you're perfect enough, you'll finally be loved. But perfection doesn't breed love. It breeds distant admiration. And admiration without intimacy is just disguised loneliness. You can be loved by being fake, but you'll never be truly touched, because only those who dare to show up get to connect. And your mask, no matter how pretty it seems, isolates you, silences you, kills you little by little. You betray yourself a little every time you say yes when your heart screams no. You've learned to abandon yourself. Learn to stay silent when everything inside was shouting. Learn to smile on the outside while dying on the inside. Learn to shrink so others could feel comfortable. And now, you don't even realize how often you keep betraying yourself. You've become a master at sacrificing your limits, at always putting others first. You give until you bleed. But when you look inwards, all you find are scraps. A faint echo of someone who once had a voice, who once had desires, who once was whole. You do everything for everyone, except for yourself, because deep down, you believe you don't deserve that care. Don't deserve that attention. Don't deserve to be a priority. You accept less than you need and still feel guilty for wanting more. You've normalized crumbs, as if asking for the whole loaf was selfish. And the cruelest part, you don't even blame others. You blame yourself for feeling too much, for expecting too much, for being complicated, for being intense. So you continue the cycle. You swallow, you tolerate. You pretend everything's fine, while inside, you drift further and further away from yourself. And with every choice that goes against what you feel, you reinforce the lie. The one that says, you will only be loved if you are easy to love. But who said you have to be easy? You weren't made to be shallow, to fit molds, to please everyone. You were made to be whole. But as long as you keep denying what you feel, as long as you keep saying yes, while your heart begs no, you'll stay trapped in this cruel cycle of self-abandonment, hoping to be chosen, when in truth, it's you who needs to choose yourself first. You don't want to be loved. You want to be validated. And that comes at a price. You live waiting for the next compliment. The next, you're amazing. The next approving look that makes you feel like you exist, like you matter, like you have worth. You've learned to measure yourself by others' reflections. They look at you with pride, you rise. If they ignore you, you collapse. You've become addicted to feedback, to applause, to validation. But the addiction to being admired is sneaky. It looks like self-esteem, but it's the lack of it. Because when no one says anything, you fall apart. When no one approves, you doubt yourself. When no one claps, you hide. You've even started shaping your accomplishments for others' eyes. You choose paths not for what sets your soul on fire, but for what will impress. Everything must generate recognition. Otherwise, it feels like it doesn't count. And that traps you, because applause is fleeting. Other people's opinions change. And you become a hostage to their mood, attention, and approval. You stopped doing what you love to do what pleases. Stopped saying what you feel to say what doesn't offend. Stopped being yourself to be what they expect. And the saddest part, even when you do everything right, you still feel empty. Because no compliment sustains a heart that doesn't believe in itself. You've become a slave to the image, to the character others created, and now you keep feeding it. But for how long? How long will you keep looking into others' eyes for permission to exist? How long will you depend on likes to feel alive? How long will you keep shrinking, afraid of being too much? This prison may feel comfortable, but it's still a prison. And there's no freedom in a place where you have to be an edited version of yourself just to be loved. You stay silent to keep the peace, but the war has already started inside you. You say it's fine, but it's not. You say you don't care, but you do. You say you've forgiven, but inside you still carry the shards. You think being strong means enduring, swallowing frogs, smiling through disrespect, but that's not strength. That's fear. Fear of upsetting others. Fear of being left. Fear of being labeled as difficult. And meanwhile, you're exploding on the inside because there's a scream trapped in your throat. A desire to finally say everything you've swallowed for years. A rage that has no clear target, so it turns inward. You keep holding back what you feel, but your body doesn't forget. Anxiety shows up. Insomnia consumes you. Breathing becomes heavy, and your soul bleeds in silence. Being the nice one demands more than you can give. And you've been paying for it with your emotional health. You don't want to be seen as fragile, so you fake maturity, fake balance, pretend you've moved on. But deep down, there's rage. Rage at never being heard. Rage at always being the one who gives in. Rage at having to apologize even when you're in pain. And this rage, repressed for too long, turns into exhaustion, turns into apathy, turns into a desire to disappear. Not because you want to die, but because you're tired of pretending to be alive. You don't want to hurt anyone, but you can't keep hurting yourself just to make everyone else comfortable. You want to explode. You want to break everything. You want, for the first time, to be selfish, to be honest, to be free. But you're still afraid that if you show your pain, they'll reject you again, so you go quiet. Once again, and the rage grows. Silent, suffocated, lethal. You're not loving. You're just trying to survive abandonment. You think you're being generous, understanding, selfless. But the truth is, you've learned to please like a dog begging for affection. You give everything. But deep down, you're hoping for something in return. A look, a stay, an I need you. You think it's love. But it's just a desperate attempt to be indispensable. Pleasing has become your way of staying close, of not being replaced, of not being forgotten. You've said I love you not out of feeling, but out of fear. You've given in not out of empathy, but out of fear of being ignored. You've sacrificed yourself not for love, but to keep someone who might not even truly see you. And this is your addiction, not to them. To the feeling of being needed, to the illusion of being wanted, to the comfort of being accepted, even if it's for a role that I send to. You've become a specialist at sensing what others want and delivering, quickly, with a smile, efficiently, as if your worth is directly tied to your ability to please. And when you're not recognized, you collapse inside. You feel rejected, even if no one says a word. You feel small, even if no one attacks you, cause your self-esteem doesn't come from within. It depends entirely on others' reflections. That's not affection, it's desperation. It's not giving, it's bargaining. It's not love, it's fear. You'd rather be loved for what you pretend to be than risk being rejected for who you really are. But the cost of that is brutal. You'll never know if someone loves you, or just loves the character you created to be accepted. And as long as you remain addicted to pleasing, you'll repeat the same cycle. You give too much, expect too much, get disappointed, blame yourself, and then start it all over again, afraid of being alone. And because of that, you'll always be poorly accompanied, even by yourself. There comes a point where you stop being afraid of falling. Because you already did. You tried. You swallowed pain. You smiled when you were shattered. You helped when you needed help. You loved without being loved. You held on to everyone, but no one held on to you. And now, something inside is cracking. A quiet collapse. A subtle scream that no one hears, but that you can't ignore anymore. You're tired. Not just physically, but spiritually. Exhausted from being strong for everyone, and fragile in your solitude. Exhausted from always showing up while no one notices when you disappear. And it's here, in this silence, that you reach your breaking point. It's not always a scene, not always tears. Sometimes it's just a decision. I'm done. Done pretending. Done giving beyond your limits. Done begging to be seen. Done fitting into places that suffocate you. The breaking point doesn't destroy you. It frees you. Because when you fall apart, the lies fall with you. The masks, the roles, the stories you told yourself to survive. From the rubble, only what's real remains. And for the first time, you start to ask different questions. What do I want? Who am I when I stop performing? What if I don't go back to being who I was? You realize you don't want to bounce back. You want to be reborn, not polished, not edited, not pleasing, real, raw, free. And it all begins right here, at your breaking point. You don't know who you are yet, but you've already decided who you'll never be again. You're no longer trying to prove anything. Not trying to be liked, not trying to fit in. Something inside you has awakened, and you can't go back to sleep. You start looking at yourself differently. Less judgment, more curiosity. You no longer see yourself as broken, but as someone who's finally beginning to rebuild. You speak less, but what you say now comes from the soul. You show up less, but when you do, it's fully and without masks. You start saying no, not out of rebellion, but out of self-respect. You leave where you're not seen, not out of pride, but because staying would be betrayal. You stop chasing those who never stopped to look back. You stop proving your worth. You stop apologizing for existing. And it's strange because the world is the same, but you are not. You no longer want what you used to crave. You no longer tolerate what you once accepted. You no longer believe the lies you repeated for years, and the silence that once suffocated you now becomes your refuge, your peace, your temple. Because the awakening isn't loud. It's not fireworks. It's not applause. It's not a triumphant return. It's a quiet return to yourself. It's the moment when you stop surviving and begin living. You didn't become someone new. You just returned to who you were before the world broke you. You're no longer begging for space. You occupy it. You're no longer seeking love. You radiate it. You're no longer asking for permission. You simply are. You've learned to walk alone, to enjoy your own company, to listen to your silence, to respect your time, to protect your peace. You've stopped arguing with those who never wanted to understand. You've stopped chasing those who never stayed. You've stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. Your presence has changed, heavier, quieter, more real. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. Your energy speaks first. Some won't recognize you. Others will say, you've changed. But only you know the truth. You've returned. You've returned to the center, to your essence, to the strength that was always there, but had been buried under layers of fear, guilt, and survival. Now, you don't run away from solitude. You honor it. You don't silence your intuition. You trust it. You don't settle for crumbs. You want the full meal or nothing. You've become someone who makes others uncomfortable because your presence demands truth, demands reciprocity, demands depth, You're not here to be liked. You're here to be real. And from this place, you begin again. Not from the pain, but from the power it gave you. This is not a new version of you. This is your essence, finally unleashed.